We're going to deal with Godless Engineer and his videos.
Well, hit me with your best shot there, buddy. Say, hit me with your best shot. Hit me with your best shot. Fire away.
And I am the godless engineer, a conscious pioneer, a logic general, a reason brigadier. More bullshit from the pulpit. Meet me in the comment section and you get schooled, bitch. The godless engineer.
Now I'm going to try and move backwards. I'm going to say with videos about Tacitus first and then move about Josephus because Josephus is very in depth and I need to go into it a lot of detail. So let's talk about Tacitus first. Um, he says that his arguments are, and I want you to pass on the logic here, that is based upon what Christians believed at the time.
Yes. That is exactly what Tacitus relayed in his particular source. They were just common Christian beliefs. So I don't see what the problem is here. I don't see how he could, relay the common Christian beliefs of today, when he's all the way in the past. I don't. Is he a Time Lord? Could that be it? Or does he have a DeLorean? Knows.
No, it isn't. You do know that Pontius Pilate
Oh, well, excuse me. Goddamn, I am glad that you have come to me and you have provided me with information that Tacitus is actually a time traveler and that he's actually relaying information on down the road that Christians future to him no. Or their common beliefs then. I am so glad you're here to tell us. So please, tell us, where's this TARDIS at?
was well known to be procurator of Rome at the time, and it'd be pretty easy for him to discover whether Jesus died or not. If he wanted to discuss what Christians actually believed, he would have talked about the resurrection. He would have talked about the virgin birth. He would have talked about miracles. But no, he decided to talk about the actual man who started Christianity. That sort of baffles and destroys your argument there.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that if uh, Tacitus was going to talk about the beliefs of the Christians of the time, that he would have mentioned more than just the basics about Christ, that he was killed by Pontius Pilate and all this other stuff. Well, that's a bit of a straw man considering that that's not exactly what I said. I did say that, he was relaying the common Christian beliefs of the time, but I in no way meant that they were a complete description of the beliefs of the Christians. And so the straw man here would be that you're building up that I'm saying that it's a complete set of the beliefs of Christians. When that's not what I said. I said that these were common Christian beliefs of the time, as it was being purported by Christians of the time. That was their basic belief system: that Jesus Christ was a man, he lived, he died on the cross. Now, there's a lot of things to do with, the resurrection and everything, like when exactly those things occurred. There's also a lot of debate in the fact that, there were a lot of levels in the Christian faith right around that time. And I plan on addressing all of these in future videos. I haven't gotten to them yet, so I'm kind of revealing a little bit here. But, in early Christianity, there were different levels of knowledge at which, you could do these things. And so basically, in that particular part, what he was doing was, relaying common Christian beliefs, you know? Um, and then you mentioned Pontius Pilate here. That Pontius Pilate is most famously known for killing Jesus. Well, yeah, he is most famously known for killing Jesus, but that's because, the Christians, they dictated what records were kept and what figures were really promoted. And since the Bible was a major book throughout history, and for a good bit of it, it was a primary source for anything in this world that we know. It's no surprise that now we know Pontius Pilate as the guy who killed Jesus. That's a non sequitur, because it means nothing as far as historicity is concerned. We know a lot about the original Pontius Pilate. There's a rock that has Pontius's name carved in on it from a building that he had erected during his reign, or his overseeing, whatever. But anyways, we have multiple records of him like slaughtering people. I've gone into this into past episodes. If you would really like to know more about this, I suggest you check them out. But like, he was at one point he was taking down a group of protesters, and you know what this heartless bastard did? He sent his soldiers into the crowd dressed as civilians, and then at the drop of an order, he said, "Hey, kill these motherfuckers!" And literally anybody that they could get their hands on, doesn't fucking matter. Anybody they could get their hands on, they killed. And that was Pontius Pilate. He had no qualms about killing these motherfucking people. Also, historians of the time had no qualms about recording this shit as it was happening. Now you would think that if the entire city turned out, the entire fucking city turned out to crucify this one lone fucking Jew, don't you think somebody around the time would actually record that shit down and be like, "Oh yeah, Pontius Pilate, he drew a pretty big crowd today when he executed that fucking Jew." You would think that they would record that, but guess what? We don't have any sources that connect Pontius Pilate to the crucifixion of Jesus. There's no records anywhere. And the Romans, they were fucking spot on about records. They have records about some of the most minute things, but yet this guy who's supposedly even at the time was so fucking important to the general population of the city that all of them had to turn out, and all of them had to choose Barabbas over Jesus, a guy who was killing people, over Jesus, which actually that particular story in and of itself is like based in the Yom Kippur sacrifice ritual, which I have on my channel in the Did Jesus Exist playlist. I'll have it linked down below for that. But surrounding Pontius Pilate, there's a shit ton. There is just a fucking metric ton of stuff around Pontius Pilate that we know. Like, for instance, did you know that Pontius Pilate was actually removed from his position in that area because he basically ruthlessly slaughtered a bunch of people that were traveling to their own sacred religious place, and so he had them killed. And he was removed because of that particular ordeal. A completely different set of religious people he had killed, and they removed him from office. It was that, and among other like violent acts just like that. But that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, as it were. But yet, we don't have any documents. We don't have any fucking thing at all that actually connects Pontius Pilate to crucifying Jesus. Not only that, but in the Bible, as it's reported by the Bible, Pontius Pilate is a completely different fucking person. I've actually made a video on that too. I'll link all that shit down below, because I've talked about it. But it just amazes me how the Pontius Pilate in the Bible can be completely different than the actual Pontius Pilate. Like if a guy actually ordered his soldiers into a crowd of civilians and had them killed without losing a bit of sleep at night, why do you think that he would actually go and be so fucking concerned about putting to death one fucking Jew? One fucking Jew. He just ordered the slaughter of 20 some odd people. But no, one fucking Jew, he's got to wash his hands clean of the affair. To be perfectly honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Pontius Pilate woke up in the middle of the night as he was holding the head of a Jew, and he was just like, "Oh fuck, I'm sleepwalking again." Don't take that as me asserting that that actually happened. That is just something funny I just thought up. I totally just ripped up your entire argument with Pontius Pilate and everything like that. So, no, it doesn't destroy my argument. Actually, it really makes your argument look like weak as shit.
About a specific person who lived at a specific time. He's not talking about the miracles. He's not talking about what Christians believe. He's talking about a specific person who lived. That destroys your theory right off the bat.
No, it still doesn't. It still doesn't prove or disprove my theory at all. It doesn't. I mean, if anything, it leaves your theory wanting to explain why people didn't record him at the time. Why wasn't he, recorded as doing any of the shit that the Bible says that he did? It just makes your argument look fucking pathetic.
To talk about what Christians believed, he would have said that. He could have talked about what Christians actually believed. All he talked about is that Jesus was killed under the reign of the Emperor Tiberius. He was killed while Pontius Pilate was procurator of Rome. And he bred the first Christians in the world. Now, already, Mr. Godless Engineer gets that wrong. But again, that's minor. That's minor. Because, again, he's running on Richard Carrier, and we know where that will get you.
So what? I'm fucking using Richard Carrier. I mean, come on. Richard Carrier, he's got a doctorate in history. I mean, he's a learned man. I mean, it's not like they just give these things out like they're popsicles. I mean, he worked hard to get it, and he worked hard on this fucking book. He comes at and this goes he goes into more about Richard Carrier and shit. But I use Richard Carrier because he comes at it from a truly like unbiased position, and that unbiased position would be mathematics. He comes at it through probabilities. He starts at perfect zero, basically, and he weighs the evidence. He assigns probabilities to, to the particular evidences for historicity and against historicity. And he comes at it from a very mathematical way. And, I can't argue with math. Now, you might argue with the percentages that he puts on certain things. I'm pretty sure that you might weigh something a bit more probable than something else. But then again, you're having to rely on information that's categorically unreliable. I mean, because you would rely on the Bible for, your sources. You would rely on that. But the Bible has been proven time and time again that you can't use it as a reliable historical source. I mean, sure, it's got some relevant things in there. It's got Pontius Pilate in there. It's got the Jews being kicked out of Rome at one point. I mean, it's got a whole bunch of references to actual historical events. But as far as being a solid piece of evidence for the new information that is put forth in the Bible, it doesn't do it doesn't do anything to actually be a historical document, especially when the fact that this gets a little bit ahead in my series here, but when you look at the criteria set out in the Old Testament for Jesus, it tells you exactly, it's a perfect cookbook, a perfect recipe for creating a Jesus. And I'm going to get into that later on in my series here, so I hope that you will stay with me and keep arguing your points, because I mean, if you've got evidence for the historicity of Jesus, I want to hear it. I want to examine it. If you've got good evidence, then yeah, my decision, my opinion will change on a dime. Okay? That's just the simple, plain fact about it. I will change my decision, but you have to give me sufficient evidence. And so far from what I have read, researched, and everything, there is no evidence at all And we're going to get into that a little bit here in your video. Thank you for joining me for this Did Jesus Exist special edition where I respond to my critics. I have all of the links below referencing what I talked about in this particular part of this response to Phoney. So if you will go down below, check those out. I highly suggest you check for yourself. You check the evidence for yourself. See what the evidence says. That is what supports my position, not the people that have come up with the theories or with the arguments, but the actual evidence that they have. That is a good argument when you have solid evidence to back it up, and I feel like I have solid evidence. So if you have something, if you have something like this that you're really struggling with, or to figure out what's actually true, look at the evidence and try to be skeptical and logical when you look at it. Don't forget to go down below, hit the like button if you indeed liked this particular part of my response. If you will, also leave me a comment below. Also, if this is your first time here, subscribe to me, motherfucker. And in a new twist of things, question everything.